Poetry is more than just surface level words. It is a creative language of emotion, identity, and the human experience. This art allows readers to put themselves in another person's world, empathize with their struggles, and understand perspectives that traditional literature often cannot capture. Unlike usual storytelling, poetry uses imagery, rhythm, and symbolism to create feelings, allowing for endless interpretations. We can see this through music, where lyrics function as a form of modern poetry. Noah Kahan's music illustrates how poetic language can dive into the complexities of past and present, self and place, as well as connection and detachment. In other lines, imagery of roads, towns, and open landscapes create a sense of movement and isolation, reinforcing the feeling that he is lost within himself. His song, No Complaints, is about his battle between numbness and self reflection, while The View Between Villages lost identity between self and home. Through imagery and creative wording, Kahn's lyrics show how poetry makes space for deep emotion and discovery of oneself. Poetry is a way for readers to dive deeper into emotions and understand identities traditional literature cannot, aligning with Gloria Anzadulla's idea that language is a homeland. No Complaints by Noah Kahan is an example of how poetry allows us to experience other people's pain and emotions in a deeply personal way, aligning with Gloria Anzadulla's idea that language is a homeland. Through his lyrics, Kahan not only tells a story of struggle, but pulls listeners into his emotional world. This demonstrates how poetry creates a space for raw vulnerability and self-reflection that traditional literature often cannot. In the line, "Now that the pain's different, it still exists, it just escapes different," he acknowledges that suffering never fully goes away, but rather turns into something more manageable. However, even with the proper coping mechanisms, he still doesn't feel full. His emotions become dulled. This is seen in the line, "And invades vision, makes the rain different, makes the news boring and the rage distant." Here, the rain, usually a symbol of sadness or sorrow, no longer holds the same feeling he had once before. The shifts in his perception transform from a dramatic downpour of emotion into something muted, distant, and almost overlooked. He feels detached from the world and numb. This disconnection also comes from his own identity. "Yes, I'm young and living dreams, in love with being noticed and afraid of being seen." While he knows he's successful, this line shows the inner battle between craving validation and fearing true vulnerability, showcasing the complexity of his emotional state. Even when he reassures himself, "But I can finally eat and I can finally sleep, it's fine, fine, fine." The repetition of fine is just forced acceptance, knowing there are deep, unresolved emotions. He knows that he did seek help in "I finally got sewed up. I set a time and I showed up. Now the weight of the world ain't that bad." Yet the line, "Well, I saw the end, it looked just like the middle," shows even with the progress on the outside, the struggles are still there. To have an outlet, he starts writing, but even that becomes overwhelming. In got a paper and pen, and a page with no space, his pain is too big to be contained in writing, leading him to fill the emptiness with medication. "I filled a hole in my head with prescription medication and forgot how to cry. Who am I?" This moment shows a loss of what he is as a person, as medication numbed his emotions, leaving him questioning his true identity. The final line, "Who am I to complain?" explains his survival without true resolution. Even though he has come far, his pain is still there, and he feels undeserving of complaint. Kahn's lyrics show poetry as a space for processing emotions and sharing in a way that traditional literature often cannot. Reading the lyrics, like poetry, allows the readers and listeners to connect deeply with themes of identity, survival, and how complex healing is. This makes language itself a home for emotional healing, just like Azandula describes. By analyzing the lyrics of The View Between Villages by Noah Kahan, we can step into his shoes and experience how he feels lost in his identity. The song is about memory, trauma, and change. He sings about mixed emotions tied to returning to a place that once felt like home but now feels foreign. Kahan uses roads, trees, and views to describe the feeling he feels internally, showing how he exists between who he was and who he is now. The title itself, Between Villages, is a metaphor for his changing identity, stuck between the past and present. The opening line, past Alderbrook Road, I'm over the bridge, a minute from home, but I feel so far from it. Although he is physically near home, he doesn't feel mentally there, as if he no longer fits in. This continues in the lines, the death of my dog, the stretch of my skin, it's all washing over me, I'm angry again. There is a trauma linked to home and personal growth. His anger coming back tells that he hasn't accepted what he has been through. In the line, the things that I have lost here, the people I knew, they got me surrounded for a mile or two. Kahan is saying home isn't just a place, but a group of people and experiences that have shaped him. Instead of comfort, he feels suffocated by them, like he is trapped. The lyric, the car's in reverse, I'm gripping the wheel, shows he wants to leave. The grip on the wheel may be his internal battle of wanting to escape, but is still mentally trapped in this place and the person he was there. By gripping the wheel, he may also be trying to ground himself. The final line, I'm back between villages and everything is still, is saying even after all his growth, he has not fully moved on. The whole idea of the song is that identity is changing and affected by the places and people that shape us. Kahan's lyrics show poetry, but in this case, also music, creates a space where identity can be explored, questioned, shared, and understood, aligning with Gloria Azandua's belief that language is a homeland. His language is poetic, and his lyrics become an emotional outlet where the audience can understand his identity struggles. Layli Long Soldier's poetry and Whereas shows Gloria Anzaldúa's idea that language is a homeland, demonstrating how poetry can change one's identity. In Anzaldúa's essay, she says that one's identity is a filtering screen limiting your awareness to a fraction of your reality. This idea borrows very closely from the poetry of Long Soldier, specifically how she uses words to symbolize the complexity of personal and collective identity. In the Whereas poem, Soldier writes, I shy, away from the cliche, away to I worry and second guess, showing the inner conflict and doubt about identity and communication. Her scattered lines of physicality show her doubt, making a sense of vulnerability and unsureness through physical placement and word choice. Her decision to break sentences into short fragments further adds this feeling of insecurity, showing the emotional brokenness and uncertainty of her reality and identity. Azandua also dives into how identity is fragmented by cultural and personal struggles, suggesting that true understanding comes from embracing rather than hiding these fragments. Long Soldier's poetry visually represents this fragmentation through spacing and line breaks, creating a space for readers' thoughts and sense of discomfort. Both Azandua's and Long Soldier demonstrate poetry's unique power to depict identities that go beyond usual narratives, further strengthening the idea that poetic language can reshape our understanding of self and reality. Poetry is not just words on a page, but a powerful tool for sharing and learning identity, emotion, and human existence in ways that traditional literature usually cannot. With the works of Noah Kahan's music and the poetry of Layli Long Soldier, we can see how language creates a space for identity of oneself and understanding. Kahan's No Complaints shows how poetry captures the battle between pain and healing, while The View Between Villages explores the relationship between self and place, showing how identity is shaped by memory and home. Similarly, Long Soldier's poetry in Whereas shows how language and form reflect internal conflict, using fragmentation to share the uncertainty of identity. Each of these works reinforces how poetry functions as a means of processing emotions, capturing the complexities of personal history and making sense of the self. This aligns with Gloria Azindua's belief that language is a homeland, a space where identity can be questioned, redefined, and understood. Whether through music or the written word, poetry allows people to process deep emotions, examine their sense of self, and connect with experiences beyond their own, proving language itself is a place of belonging. Through poetry, language continues to serve as a homeland, offering a place where emotions and identities can be explored and understood.